Well, first of all, the case law in the United States Supreme Court does not simply interpret the First Amendment to apply only to individuals. It applies to organizations like Ave Maria University and our rights to define ourselves and to exist in America in the public square like everyone else. We're not forcing our beliefs at Ave Maria University on our employees. They freely come to work at Ave Maria University, and they understand what our university is about, that we are a Catholic institution, any more than a Jewish organization is forcing its beliefs on people because they don't have pork in their cafeteria. To me, the point is individuals are free to decide whether they want to have contraception or not. The point is you can't force an organization like Ave Maria University to provide it. You can't force us to compromise our religious beliefs, and I think there's case law that supports this. And the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty is pushing this not only on constitutional grounds, but because they feel that this mandate violates the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was passed by Congress in the 90s and signed by President Clinton. That's why I'm saying what is being done today is a radical departure from past practices by presidents that were Republican and Democrat alike, and we have to fight it.
On a Republican line, Brooksfield, Florida. Loretta, good morning. Thanks for holding on. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Towey. I really applaud your suit that you are going against the government. We need this, and they are trampling our rights and our constitutional rights. I don't believe that anyone should be kidded. I think this is about abortion. Mr. Obama, since he was a senator in Illinois, has tried to get bills through for abortion, and this is about trampling our rights. Just as this administration has been suing the states to protect their rights. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Loretta. I do think that these issues are becoming crystal clear for Americans now, because the preciousness of our country and its heritage is grounded in religious freedom and in the exercise of that First Amendment free exercise right. And we don't want to establish religion either. So I do think there's been a balance struck, and I think the scales just got tipped. That's all.
Democrats line, Cheryl from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. It seems like a lot of people are trying to legislate religion into our government. And my question is, first of all, which brand do you legislate? Which brand of Christianity do you put in there? And have you people not familiar with the term free will? The free will to follow the teaching or not follow the teaching, or to follow what you feel is right for you. It's free will and it's choice, and you cannot impose your will upon me. And I'll take your response off air. Thank you.
Sure, Cheryl. We're not trying to impose our beliefs on you. Individuals that work at Ave Maria University come to the university because they recognize we're a Catholic liberal arts institution. We've got wonderful students there. It's a wonderful institution. We're not forcing our beliefs. People use their free will to exercise the right to apply and then to come and work at the university. We're not trying to legislate religion into government, or, and when I worked at the White House, I had the great privilege to work with religious leaders of all different faiths and individuals of goodwill who were of no particular faith. We're not seeking to impose our views. We're trying to be free from the heavy hand of government that's coercing us to violate our First Amendment religious beliefs. So I'm not looking for this government to institute a set of beliefs, to Christianize government, or to somehow violate the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. We're simply trying to be able to freely exercise our faith and not be coerced to do something which is a social policy of this administration, which people can disagree about, but don't force faith-based groups to compromise their beliefs.
There was a write-up in the Washington Post taking a look at legal cases specifically like yours, And one of the things they cited was a ruling that was called the Employment Division versus Smith, in which the Supreme Court found that if a law is, quote, neutral and generally applicable, meaning that it's not specifically targeted against any religious group, individuals must comply with it, even though when doing so imposes a burden on their free exercise of religion. And the response to that, it was Justice Scalia who said that otherwise, otherwise, quote, will be courting anarchy by making, quote, the professed doctrines of religious belief superior to the law of the land, and effect to permit every citizen to become a law unto himself.
Well, I'm sure that's going to be argued in our lawsuit, and I think the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty will be able to adequately rebut this, because there's always been a reasonable accommodation made for the religious beliefs of individuals. And if the government has a compelling interest, and there's no less restrictive way to implement this policy than what they propose, then it might fly, and Justice Scalia might be right. He's a brilliant man. But there are other issues involved besides just that argument. And the question is, we think there are many less restrictive ways that they could have done this.
Well, his opinion was also included in a tweet from Scott King, but the question that's preceded by saying, is your college a church or a business?
Our college is not a church. It's not a place of worship, as churches are defined. It's certainly church affiliated in that we follow the teachings of the Catholic Church and are happy that we do. I've been proud of Cardinal Dolan's leadership in pointing out the danger of the approach that HHS is taking. But Justice Scalia's comments in that one case, one could argue most recently all 9 U.S. Supreme Court justices looked at the First Amendment and were aghast at what the administration was attempting to do in an employment matter that involved a faith-based organization that was deciding which of its employees were ministers and were working under the ministerial exemption. The 9 justices were appalled by that. So when you get into the train of constitutional law and these court cases, it's a complex maze. Thank God we have the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty. They're going to do a great job representing us.
When is your case going to be heard? Do you know?
Well, we're already in discovery now, and then they'll probably within 6 months we'll have motions for summary judgment and more arguments. And the law takes effect January. There's been talk that there might be waivers granted to organizations like ours for a year delay, but we've seen no guidelines on that. That's been troubling because the administration's known for over a year that the big issue for many faith-based groups was one of self-insurance. Let's take the Archdiocese of New York. Let's take Ave Maria 2 years ago when we self-insured. Many faith-based organizations self-insure. They're large enough to have a pool where they can do that, pool of employees. Why didn't the administration, in its new regulation, address the self-insurance issues? Where the great majority of dioceses in America follow this self-insurance path. They didn't even address it. They kicked that can up the road. To me, that showed that there was a haste involved, there was a rush to get the regulation out, and in a process it was poorly drafted, and there still is no protection whatsoever for self-insured organizations.
Next call, Brooksfield, Florida. Loretta, Republican line. Good morning. Loretta, are you there?
We had Loretta.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's not Loretta, it's Lizette from Baton Rouge.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fine. Good morning. Thank you so much, sir, for the good work that you're doing. I'm a product of 12 years parochial school. It was drummed into our heads about the importance of separation of church and state, and also that we were to be good, loyal Americans. I have a question. I'm going to try and be as concise. What if the federal government took over the penal system of all the states and did away with the states in enforcing justice, and the federal government took over the execution of men on death row or women, and they decided that lethal injection would be performed in Catholic hospitals? Am I making sense? Is that kind of similar to what they're doing now, how they're forcing the hospitals and the Catholic institutions to provide something that is against their moral teachings, just as the death penalty is against Catholic teachings?
Well, I think you make a good point, Lisette, that once the federal government starts down a path of telling the church what it's to believe, what it's to do, I think it's dangerous. And keep in mind, when you look at the greatness of America, so many faith-based organizations, different faiths coming together, mobilizing armies of volunteers. Very impressive to see these armies of compassion at work. I think, Lisette, you make a very good point that Americans are starting to bristle about the overreach of federal government. The government's coming in now and it's crossing line after line and taking more and more of a role in your day-to-day lives. And I think people are frustrated. I think that was part of the Tea Party movement's lament. I think it's going to be an issue in this election, just the overreach and the heavy hand of the federal government. And I will tell you that we're feeling it at Ave Maria University right now.